Hey, what's happening, CS Tiers? Do not adjust your earbuds, your iPhones, your Android phones, wherever you're listening to Cincinnati Soccer Talk. It's me, Soobs. I'm back. Maybe just for a week, but I'm glad to be with you here on this episode of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. Glad you're with us live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Lots to digest this week as FC Cincinnati says goodbye to Orlando, the bubble, and MLS is back. They fall to the Portland Timbers in penalties in the first round of the knockout stage of the tournament. So we'll discuss that on this week's show. We'll also talk about the tournament as a whole. How do you think FC Cincinnati fared when you compare all of the Major League Soccer teams in this tournament? And then we'll round out the show with your questions. So get in touch with us. You can always email us feedback@cincinnati-soccertalk.com or hit us up on Twitter as well @Cincy Soccer Talk. Before I introduce my cast of characters for this week's show, we have an episode captain of Cincinnati Soccer Talk this week. Give it up to Riley Stephen Burke. Thank you so much for supporting the show and for wearing the armband for this episode of CST. To learn more on how you can wear the armband for an episode of Cincinnati Soccer Talk, head on over to cincinnati-soccertalk.com/support. All right, let's welcome back to the show, Clay Winstead. Clay, how you been, buddy? Did you have a good weekend?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm feeling good. It's a disappointment not to be watching FCC still this week, but the tournament's been fun, and I'm surprised we got this far. So I'm basking in the glow of exceeding expectations.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. Exceeding expectations. A lot of FC Cincinnati fans, I don't think they were too upset after exiting against the Timbers. Maybe with how the game played out, maybe that's what upset them. But
right.
Again, expectations weren't great, and they got as far as it did. So looking forward to getting your take, Clay, on what's been in store for the Orange and Blue here the last few weeks. Let's bring back to the show the professor, Jeff Warner, fresh off his vacation, looking nice and tan there. Jeff, how you been, buddy?
Good, Nick. It's good to be back. It's good to have matches to talk about.
I know, right? It's been gosh, I mean, I think the last time you were on the show, they hadn't even played yet.
Right. Right. Not only some matches to talk about, but a lot of positive things.
Yes, a lot of positive. So I'm looking forward to getting your thoughts as well, Jeff. And of course, last but not least, we welcome back into the show former FC Cincinnati midfielder and 8-year Major League Soccer veteran, Michael Hood. Michael, how was your weekend, man?
It wasn't with FC Cincinnati, unfortunately. Yeah. But the good news is Manchester United won. So, hey, drinks water, of course, to that.
I can get behind that statement for sure, Michael.
It wasn't it took the show 2 minutes for us to bring up Manchester United. Jeez.
Man, I'm primed. I'm ready to go.
I think for those who are listening to the audio podcast, Michael, you've got to describe the coffee mug that you are drinking water out of.
Oof, where do I begin? I am an avid Ninja Turtles fan, so how can I describe it? It's green, it's turtley, and it's beautiful. And it's mine. So no, I got it from one of my buddies in Philadelphia when I played with the Union, and every birthday he would give me just some comic book or superhero sort of thing. I'm a total superhero nerd, and told him about Ninja Turtles, and he remembered, and I have this cup, this mug, this mega mug till this day, which it's my water mug.
And I like that it's Leonardo.
Mm-hmm.
Want to know? Do you have a favorite? Is Leonardo your favorite turtle, Michael?
I'm a Raphael.
All right,
Raphael fan. Right. Yeah, Raph.
Well, we might have to, somehow find a way to get you a Raphael mug down there in San Antonio. Brian Weigel, who's chiming in fresh off his PTO. I guess we could throw up this comment right off the bat. It says Michelangelo would have had made more sense.
Come on,
Michelangelo, Michael Lahoud.
I got to mix it up on the ones and twos, man.
Just teed up there for you.
All right. Well, let's talk a little soccer, shall we? FC Cincinnati over the weekend, or actually last week, fell to the Portland Timbers in extra time after a penalty kick shootout. They ended the match 1-1. Probably should have been 2-1 FC Cincinnati. We'll talk about that. But again, we kind of touched on it that, the orange and blue, the fact they were even playing this game against Portland was, again, exceeding expectations, right? Not just from FC Cincinnati fans, but league-wide. I think Major League Soccer circles, a lot of folks came away from this tournament maybe impressed is the right word. So I'll start with you, Clay. Give me your thumbs up or positive key takeaway from the match against the Timbers.
Ooh, I think the positive we could take away is that, so we've seen this new, who knows if we're going to stick with it, kind of 5-3-2 bunker down, or some people want to say park the bus system. We knew that going in, but what we were able to see, I think, in this match was our ability to be better in possession. There's a lot more, Portland gave us a lot of opportunity to hold onto the ball. There was a lot more positives going forward. And I think, so that's a general thumbs up for me, is our possession was much better. But specifically, Sem de Jong, I think, had his best minutes. It's not saying much, but he had his best minutes with FCC in the back half of that second half. He really grew into the game. He created a lot of chances. He was the one who almost made that assist for Jurgen Locadia. That's the kind of thing you would want to see out of that guy. That's the money. That's money well spent. So I think our better possession and his involvement in that possession, I think, was a really good positive to take away.
How about you, Jeff Wallner? What was your positive from this match?
Well, I know we're going to talk about him maybe a little bit more in depth later on, but Jaap Stam, just for me, it was a tremendous job of managing when you look at the adjustments he made coming out of the 4-0 loss to Columbus, and he adjusted to the personnel that he had at his disposal. He adjusted to the opponents, to the environment. He adjusted his style of play. He did what he needed to do to put his club in position to win matches. And I was really impressed with how quickly, in a quick turnaround, he was able to make those adjustments. He was able to get the group to buy into it collectively. He was able to execute it. Wasn't the prettiest thing at times. We know that. But he did what he needed to do as a manager, and that is just put his club in a position to win matches. And how long has it been since FC Cincinnati? I know they had that little bit of a run where they were competitive under Jans at the tail end of last year, but it's been a while since this club. I don't recall them being this competitive in MLS matches since they joined the league. And I was just really impressed with the way that he rallied his team. He had the team meeting after the loss to Columbus, and he made the adjustments he needed to make, and everybody bought in. I thought it was a tremendous job of coaching by him.
How about your positives, Michael?
Hats off to all the players. It's so difficult to show the character and resolve that they showed to come back from the Columbus game, where you get dismantled 4-0. And now what do? Your backs are against the wall. Everyone's asking questions. And it's almost a reenactment of, here we go again. It's a new group of players, but we just can't get out of this rut. New manager, but we can't get out of this rut. And it is so difficult as a player to buy into the philosophy when you have a new manager and there's been so many changes. So hats off to the players for buying in. It's not an easy thing to play that 5-3-2 where it takes a lot of communication, a lot of teamwork. You have to trust the guy next to you that he has your back. And although it wasn't the prettiest, as we've talked about, one thing that strikes me is they have a philosophy of something they can build on. You saw the management of the game in the second half where there's offensive weapons that can be interchanged if you get through the first half, that you can now go and say, hey guys, this is why we pay you the big bucks. Go win us the game. And it almost paid off. So a lot to work off of and a lot to build off of from here.
Yeah, there were a lot of positives. For me, if I have to offer up my positive from the Timbers match, man, it was tough, especially how it went down there towards the end. But, I would say my positive's probably going to be the fact that defensively, right, they gave up the one goal to Portland on what I thought was pretty much a miscommunication by the two guys on the right side, Duplan and Zhao. But outside of the one chance, it wasn't like Portland was really peppering TT. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I didn't think that TT was forced into having to make too many saves. Maybe Portland had some closer chances than we had hoped, but they were able to pretty much keep Portland at bay. So for me, that's probably my biggest positive. How about your negative, Michael?
Negative. I'm going to try and keep it light, but it has to go with the missed chance. I'm never one, being a former player, I'm never one to slaughter a guy because we all miss chances, but you're the big money man and you have to put those away. That is the golden chance where we're now sitting here talking about the next round. And it's unfortunate that it came to that. And you could see how much it affected Locadia on the penalty kick. But the negative for me is big players step up in big moments and you're brought in to be the big man on campus. You get paid the big bucks and you have to finish that. Unfortunate that he didn't finish it, but he also stepped up to make the penalty kick. So I would have liked to see your big money player finish that.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about it too. That the penalty he took that to score on to make it 1-1.
It's perfect.
Could not have been in a more perfect spot, and it had to be because the keeper guessed. Steve Clark guessed right, but then the second penalty, and I don't know, maybe it would have been different had he not taken the first penalty kick. Who knows? But yeah, it's hard to argue with that, Michael. How about you, Jeff? You're negative from this match.
Yeah, I'm kind of on board with Michael on this one, and if it is kind of one looking at it another way, if that's where FC Cincinnati ended up in this tournament, where we're lamenting a Jurgen Locadia sitter to win it in the 87th minute, things are with the trip to the quarterfinals on the line. Things have gone pretty well to that point. So it's really hard to really point to many negatives. Again, they were in position to win that match. I don't know that fatigue really factors too much into a missed chance like that. It just comes down to execution, concentration in the moment, execution in the moment. So hard to really point to any kind of big picture negative. It's just unfortunate that it came down to that moment for Locadia being in that situation where there was so much anticipation about how his loan deal was going to work out. Were we going to see him again in orange and blue? Then he has the injury. Then he comes in and there's his moment and he didn't execute it. So really not a negative against him, as Michael said, that happens to players. It's just unfortunate that there was the perfect storyline. There was the headline, there was the highlight, and he went over the bar. So not as much a negative for me as it is just a really unfortunate situation for him that he couldn't close the deal there.
I love that our beat writer, Jeff Warner, is thinking about the headline. Always thinking about the headline, aren't you, Jeff? No, but it would have been a great headline for sure. How about you, Clay, as we wrap things up?
I'll go in a different direction. I definitely agree. And if anyone read my player ratings after the match,
we read them.
I gave Locadia a harsh rating for missing that chance and missing his penalty. But at the same time, Coach Goff talked about this in his last Talking Tactics podcast, which you should all listen to. It's incredible content. But once again, FC Cincinnati's defensive mistake was in not the corner kick, but the play afterwards. And I feel really good criticizing this, actually, because it means that our defense is playing so well that I can really highlight only one opportunity they really messed it up. But, they were not set in their defense after that corner. They weren't able to get their shape together. I don't know if it was fatigue. I don't know if it was miscommunication, probably a little bit of both. But the situation with Zhao, Stanko, Deplan, and Waston that led to the Niasgoda goal that put us down 1-0. There was a lot of mistakes that happened in that little run of play. Again, it's one mistake in a game where they played pretty decent defense and TT saved them in a lot of opportunities. But that's the thing that we've seen consistently, even under Jaap Stam, is that inability to refine their shape on defense after a corner kick, after those set pieces. And that's huge. And that's something that I trust Stam has noticed. He seems to be a really smart guy from what we see in Orlando. So I'm sure that will get, but that was definitely something that I found disappointing in this game.
Yeah. If I had to take away a negative, I don't want to say I'm giving a pass to Locadia for missing the penalty. Because he did make one earlier in the match. But if I'm going to give anybody a negative tick here, it would be I'm not so sure I'm sending Kendall Wasson up to take a penalty kick. I mean, look, he's a great center back. He's a great defender. Maybe great's being nice, but he's doing a really good job in this tournament, right? I mean, after the first match, Columbus aside, the next three matches, I would say he played really well. But I was pretty shocked to see him walking up to take a penalty kick. When you saw that, Michael, what was going through your head?
Please, someone tell me someone else is going to step. No, I was kidding. No, in those moments, you have to want it. You have to step up. And I've been in penalty shootouts where guys are crapping their pants. There's no other way to say it. There's so much at stake. There's so much pressure, so much uncertainty. And you want the guys who have the confidence, who are willing to say, I want it. If you don't want it, I want it. And kudos to Kendall for stepping up and doing it. But man, there's another attacker on the field. There's midfielders on the field. Who will step up? This is such a character moment of if you miss it, okay, but you stepped up. And, you know, I would prefer to not have your central defender take a decisive penalty kick. I don't know who is going to go afterwards, but I would prefer to have someone else in that situation. And it's just a matter of who wants to step up, who's not afraid of the moment. And that's something, if I'm the manager, that's something that I look to and I address, say, hey, we want guys who are not afraid of the moment. We have a chance to knock out a favorite of this tournament. Who wants it? Who's not afraid of the big moments? Because that's a shift in the culture of this team. And, you know, let's just stick with the team. But that's a big shift that changes everything, is when the big moments don't become so big and overwhelming.
Let's see, hindsight's 2020. If Kendall Waston hits the top of the net instead of over the bar and, you know, breaks Cinderella's castle's window or whatever, we're saying, oh my God, what a great captain. He stepped up to the plate. We've seen Sergio Ramos has scored 23 penalties in a row.
Come on now, that's apples to oranges.
Yeah.
Look, I know he's an incredibly different league of player, but just because you're a center back doesn't mean you're automatically disqualified from being good at penalties. And if your captain is standing there at the halfway line and going, no, I'm taking a penalty kick, I don't know how you can say no. We can criticize him now because he missed. But if he made it, we would have been singing his praises.
But did you see his, first of all, what was everyone's confidence level when Kendall Waston stepped to the spot? And did you see his approach? Did you see his body language? Michael, you could probably speak to this better, but he was not going to make that.
No,
he was not going to make that.
He didn't have that. You can tell when someone's going to make or has a high probability of making it. And it seemed like, hey, I'm the captain. I don't know what's going on in the conversations between guys saying, I want to take it or not, but he didn't have the body language of someone who is saying, I'm going to step up and I'm just going to hit this, and I'm going to hit this with confidence. And it showed in the run up, it showed in the body language, and obviously we're talking about the execution now. And I agree with center backs and not, disqualifying center backs. Sergio Ramos has a pedigree of taking penalty kicks in big matches. I don't know Kendall's track record with taking penalty kicks in big matches, but I do know, Kakuta has taken penalty kicks in matches. He's an attacker. And I know he came on late, but I would like to see someone else step up. And look, hindsight is 2020. And if Kendall makes it, man, I'm probably sipping on the same water in the same mug, but with a different expression and a different conversation. However, the golden rule of penalty kicks, you have to put it on target. Make the keeper make a save, but you have to put it on target. And to miss in the way he did, that's excruciating. It's devastating in that manner, and I feel for him, but you have to put it on target. And as we said earlier in the show, this isn't an opportunity to slaughter guys, because I've been there, I've missed. I remember in college in the Final Four, I didn't step up to take a penalty kick because I was scared. But in that moment, I remember we lost, and I said, I will never do that again. I will make sure that I am on the chopping block, and if I miss it, I can live with it. I will never make the moment never too big for me. And this is where, as a team and as a leader, you find out what type of leader you have. And the team, it's infectious when you have your captain raise his hand and say, hey guys, I let you down in that moment, but I can live with this. And this is not the final exam. This is not the final word on who I am as a player, who I am as a leader, and who we are as a team. We hold our heads up and we get ready for what's next.
Maybe you can shed some light on this, because I've participated in penalty shootouts, not near the level which you have, Michael. I will fully admit that. But how does the process work, right? Does the coach submit the 5 takers and then they have to kick in that order, or can it change based on how the shootout is going?
Oftentimes it's a discussion that's happening as, normally you have extra time, so you have more time to think about it and make your changes. But oftentimes it comes down to, you get the break and the manager says, who wants to take it? And the guys are on the field. Obviously you have Sim, you have Cruz, you have your go-to guys who it's not even a question. If they have one leg, they're taking a penalty kick because they're your go-to guys. And then it gets tricky between, I'd say, number 4 and 5, I'd say 4 to 6. And if it goes to 7, because those are the decisive ones and the pressure really adds up. And what I've seen at different times in the biggest of matches throughout my career is you're surprised at who the pressure is too much for. Yeah. And at some point it becomes too much for all of us, because you don't know what's happened, what's going on psychologically. No one wants to be the scapegoat. And some of the guys that I've walked away saying, you know what, you missed, but I respect the heck out of you, have been the guys that said, you know what, I'm going to take it. And the rule of thumb I've always heard is, if you are going to take it, I can live with you missing. Just put it on target and don't change your mind. And if you do that, and every time I went to take a penalty kick, that was my saving grace. That was my mentality. It was never, oh, I need to go top bins or upper 90 or side netting. It was, I'm going to hit this with confidence. I'm not going to play the mind games or the Neymar, crip walk to the penalty spot or whatever the heck they do nowadays. Now, I'm old school when it comes to penalty kicks. You put the ball down, you take your paces, you look the goalkeeper in the eye, and you smash it to one side or the other, and you live with the result. Let's just be honest. The last time I took a penalty kick, it went well, though. So I can say this with confidence.
Yeah. In fact, it's funny you mentioned that, Michael. The last time FC Cincinnati faced a Major League Soccer opponent in a penalty kick shootout was in 2018 in the U.S. Open Cup. And Michael Lahoud was the only member of FC Cincinnati that night to score his penalty kick.
He just sips his,
That's right.
his mug.
And he has fond memories of that night, don't you, Michael?
Yes, I do. I have fond memories of that night because I think that's the most I've ever run in a game in my career. I just remember thinking it was one of those games where I thought we were the better team. And playing against Minnesota United in the NASL and seeing their first year, we had all the confidence in the world. We had just started our run. And I remember before the game, we overheard the Minnesota United guys complaining about, we don't want to play on turf. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, you play on turf, dude. At the time, you didn't have that's literally the pot calling the kettle black. Come on, dude. And so I remember turning to some of the guys in the locker room and I was like, okay, we have to beat these guys. They don't want it. And we just couldn't get in that final third and make get over the hump or create that last pass. And when we got the penalty kicks, I'm not going to name names, but I remember there were guys leading up to the day before who were doing Panenkas, who looked like world beaters. And I pulled a couple of them aside and I said, dude, you're not going to do that in the game. I'm like, come on, man. Just, you're too serious about certain things. I was like, all right. And sure enough, it got to the big moment and you could hear the cowbells jingling in some people's pants. And I'm not going to name names, but I was like, dude, oh man. But it can happen to anyone, man. Yeah. It's a big moment. It's 50-50. And for me, preparation is everything. You give yourself the best chance by how you practice. And penalty kicks, guys would laugh at me because towards the end of my career, I didn't score more goals. I kicked more balls on the Bailey than I did on target in 2018. I gotta be honest. However, one thing I always took seriously was penalty kicks. and guys would be laughing, saying, you're not going to take a penalty kick in the game. However, my thought process was, well, if no one else wants to take it, I'll take it, because I don't want to be scared of the moment. And everything you do matters, and your preparation matters. So, like I said, I could say that as someone who made his last penalty kick, but if I had missed or kicked it into, Epcot Center, my camera would be off right now. I'd be dead silent.
Was that the last penalty kick you took in your career?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Look at that.
Yeah. Top bins, baby.
Nice. Well, it'll go down in history.
Oh, man.
The only one to make it for FC Cincinnati that night. Oh, good story there. Appreciate that, Michael. I'm sure we're going to have more of those as we do this here on Cincinnati Soccer Talk. No question about that. So those are our positives and negatives from the match. We want to hear from you. Make sure you get in touch with us. Feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. You can also tweet at us at Cincy Soccer Talk. If you're watching us live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and you have questions for our crew tonight, make sure you post them in our chat, and we'll put them here on the show, and we'll get them answered for you. All right, let's move on to our debate portion of the show. Segment number 2. I love it. We're going to debate about the tournament as a whole for FC Cincinnati. They made it to the knockout phase of the MLS is Back tournament. So I guess now the question we have to ask is your confidence level going forward, right? Does FC Cincinnati have the pieces in place currently to be serious contenders for a playoff spot should the regular season resume? So, Clay, I'll start with you.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we're only, was it either 1 point behind a playoff spot or only behind on goal difference currently?
We'll get that answer for you here shortly, Clay.
Okay. So we're very close. I think we're only behind Atlanta right now in terms of the playoff table if the season were to end today, which I doubt if it ended today we'd have a playoff, but we're already really close. And we did that without Jurgen Locadia, without a lot of Sim de Jong, and without a lot of Alton Cruz, which are probably some of our 3 best offensive players. So clearly, Jaap Stam has found a way for this team to play defense and play defense consistently. And we're going to add these players into our offense, which I think is going to change a lot. I think sort of our toothlessness, as Bill Wolf, I think, referred to it a couple episodes ago on offense, is due to those players' absence. I mean, we saw in the back half of that Portland game how quickly Locadia and de Jong and Cruz, even, particularly his run into the box that caused that penalty, how quickly they changed the game. We were on the front foot on offense for the last 10, 15 minutes against a very good Portland team. I knew New York is in transition, but we played them well. Atlanta's missing. Atlanta's got a lot of problems, but we didn't embarrass ourselves there either. I just think there's a lot of positives. And if we don't make the playoffs, I think we're going to be really close.
To answer Clay's question, we are 1 spot behind the playoff spot, currently in 8th place in the Eastern Conference. So not too far off. If there should be regular season games going forward, we shall see. How about you, Jeff? Do you think they can be competitive and reach that goal of the playoffs?
I don't think there's any question they can be competitive. I think we're maybe a little ahead of ourselves just in terms of this tournament is such an unusual environment, such an unusual circumstance for all the teams that are involved. So I don't know how much we can take from this tournament and apply to a full regular season schedule. But I don't think there's any question that this club has now positioned itself to take that next step, which for me, the next step isn't necessarily the playoffs. The next step for this club is just to play competitive MLS matches. That's the first step. And we only saw very brief glimpses of that last year. So, but I think we have the right manager. I think we have a solid foundation of players with the additions that they've made. I think we're going to see considerable improvement. And are they a playoff team? I don't know. With 8 spots there, potentially. But the first step for me coming off last year was let's get to the point where they're playing competitive matches week in and week out. And I think that this club is there.
Fair enough. I mean, look, it's a small sample size, right? I mean, after getting blown out by Columbus, they definitely turned things around. There's no question about it. So before I ask you the question, Mike, we've got this in the chat room from Michael Lahoud's bro. Tell Mike to say hi.
Oh man, it's my younger brother.
Well, thanks for watching, little Lahoud.
I think it's John. John, I love you. What's up? I'll FaceTime you later.
Good stuff. All right. So Mike, do they have the pieces? Can they be competitive and maybe reach that playoff spot?
I think it's a start of something. What impressed me and what I take away from this tournament is consistency and identity. So you have a consistency as a player, and in that locker room and the environment that's being built of what to expect, that goals are not going to be coming at a premium now. That it's not how many goals can we give up? It's you shall not pass, defense first. And as you get, your attack healthy, I'm glad we had an Alan Cruz sighting. Turns out it works.
Yeah.
And so I hope to see more of Alan Cruz, but you also now, as a manager, you have faith in Caleb Stanko. I thought he gave a great account of himself during this tournament. So you can start building on a philosophy, not just in general, but also how do we play when we're at home and how do we play on the road? Can we grind out the result when we go to whoever's a difficult place to play in the conference or out of conference? And when we are at Nippert, we heavy metal football, get the ball forward, get it to Sim, get it to Lacadia, have Allen making runs forward, and the evolution of Joe Zhao. I'm really interested to see. He gave a great account of himself. I'm probably jumping ahead in the show, but I can't hide my man crush on Joe Zhao, Man Crush Monday. And so it's the evolution of so many players that you didn't know where they were at or what you were going to see. You started seeing an evolution of Frankie with that goal and the confidence. And with his account of how he played, he just got tired. He put so many miles in. He tried to get forward on that left-hand side. And after 3 games of defending, attacking, your legs go. So I think I agree with, the professor of, I just love that I have to say that, the professor. I agree that there's a foundation built, but it would be jumping way too far ahead to say the blocks are there for a playoff team.
Yeah.
I would love to see, the development of the guys being battle tested. I think they got a taste of that. And I think it's going to be more to come, hopefully more to come with Dubs at Nippert.
I think for me, I don't want to think about playoffs, right? Because I don't think the club's there yet. I think for me, the biggest positive I take away, where I think maybe it could lead to playoff potential later on this year, is the fact that we saw a manager willing to make changes, willing to say, okay, this isn't working. Even after one match, he said, whoa, we got to shore some things up, right? And he did. He shored up the back, and they didn't concede a goal for over 180 minutes, right? Even more than that. So for me, I think, I know it's cliche to say defense wins championships, and I know championships are way off, but if you can defend and not concede and leak goals, I think with the attack that this team has, there's potential to maybe win a game 2-1. Whereas if you gave up a goal last year, you already knew this team was out. There was no way they were going to come back. So I think the fact that we've seen a manager adapt in such a short time frame like he did down in Orlando, that for me gives me cause to be somewhat excited for FC Cincinnati, because we didn't see it with Allen. We definitely didn't see it with Jans, and I go again short sample size for Jans, but I don't know, that to me gets me somewhat excited. So speaking of Jaap Stam, on a confidence level 1 through 10, where would you stand right now as far as what he's done in 4 games with FC Cincinnati, Michael?
I give him a 6. I wanted to give him a 10 because he's a United legend, but
Yes.
I'll be realistic and give him
Absolutely.
a 6. No, I give him a 6. It's a sample size, so anything higher for me is just too high. But I give him a 6. The ability to adapt to the players that he has, and to say, hey, we are not there yet to play this expansive football that we want to get to. Huge. And the bonus points for me, we talked about with the changes he made and how he managed the Portland game, that 6.8, if I can be really picky.
Okay.
But nothing but positives, and the trajectory that he is on as a manager is huge. A word for me that comes to mind when thinking of him, a guy of his caliber, when you walk in that locker room, you have a presence. And with how he's managed this team in this sample size portion of the MLS's back tournament, you are now earning the respect of the guys, not just because of who you are, but you didn't give up on them. You didn't say, we got beat 4-0. Here we go again.
Yeah.
You said, you know what? We're going to adapt, and I still believe in you guys. And I'm going to give you tools to get through this difficult moment and be as successful as we can be. And I'm going to give you a chance to succeed. And as a player, I can't tell you how massive that is, in a difficult moment when it doesn't start well for you.
One of my favorite YouTubers who covers Manchester United, watching us live over in England at the moment, Mr. Flying Pig HD. Pig, I love you, buddy. He says Yapstam's team is going to be tough to beat at the back.
I didn't realize bringing on
Can't
Michael
argue.
Lahoud was going to make this a Manchester United podcast.
I'm sorry, I have all my robots, deployed. So that's not actually my. I won't say that about my brother. That's most likely my brother John. He'll be upset if I.
I'm going to be unavailable for a while, Nick.
Hey, he's
It
in the
could be-
chat.
it
I
could be
appreciate him
worse.
tuning in. It's super late where he's at
Could be
over
a
in
lot
England right
worse.
now.
Yes.
So
It could be worse. This could be a Liverpool podcast.
All Reds are not created equal. So.
we are going to quickly move on before we alienate all of our fans. All right. So Jeff, Michael gives him a 6.8. How about you? Where do you stand on a scale of 1 to 10?
Well, if I'm rating him on what he accomplished in this tournament, I could go as high as an 8. He was the manager for the 4-0 loss to Columbus, where this team looked completely lost and uncompetitive, just like they did much of last year. But that's a definition of a quality manager. Is you go in with a plan, it doesn't work, you adjust, you get your players to buy in, they execute what you're doing, and you make those adjustments to put your club in the position to win. If I'm looking ahead to next season, 4 matches is a really small sample size, but I'd give him a 7. I think he did an amazing job in this tournament, considering the circumstances, which were difficult for all the clubs in Orlando. But what he did to turn this club around after that Columbus match, who would have imagined that they were a Lacadia sitter away from the quarterfinals after that night? After that, when did that match end? After 1 a.m., 1:30?
It was pretty late.
It was
Everybody's mood going to bed that night.
Oh.
Who could have imagined that this would have ended up, and rightly so should have ended up at least in the quarterfinals? Tremendous job that he did. It is a very small sample size, and I'm not sure. The other thing too, get your guys' thoughts on this, but is this style that we saw in Orlando, and maybe there's another it kind of morphs a little bit, going into next season, but how sustainable is this? Was almost out of necessity for Jaap Stam. This is what he had to do to give his club a chance. How sustainable is it, do you think?
I guess that's a question for our former player here. How about you, Michael?
It's sustainable to the extent that the guys believe in it, first and foremost. I think I agree with you. Of what I see is the ability to morph. The 3 in the back gives it. You see, it brought the best out of Kendall Lawson that we've seen in the FC Cincinnati jersey, in a while. And there's an understanding. He had command. He had presence, and just those are things that you want out of your big man, especially your captain. I think it protected Harris in the middle, and I enjoy watching Harris play. I think he's brilliant on the ball. And I think shoring him up defensively with extra bodies in the middle of the park, especially with Stanko in there, works. What I ideally would like would be to see, instead of it going from 5 in the back, I would like to see it morph into a 3-4, whether is it 1-2, 3-5-2, or 3-4-2-1. there's so many possibilities that you can morph with that 3 in the back. But it just depends for me on to the extent that the players continue to believe in the system. So,
and it sounds like there might be an addition at the back line here in the next few weeks that might dictate whether it's 3 at the back or 5 at the back. So, well said, Michael. Scale of 1 to 10, Clay. Jaap Stam, MLS is back.
See, I thought I was going to be really optimistic coming out of this tournament, but it sounds like I'm actually quite, at least on tonight's show, I'm quite in the middle. I was going to say 8, maybe even, I'm feeling myself, maybe even 8.5. It's not just because he changed, which is one huge, the tactics and the formation, because one of the things that frustrates me most watching soccer, not to focus too much on him, but Greg Berhalter with the U.S. men's national team for a key example, is when you have a set of players and you're playing a style that you've committed to, but it doesn't match with who you have. I think Maurizio Sarri at Chelsea last year was kind of the same thing. He had this idea of how to play, but he didn't have the personnel to do it. And that's great if you have a long-term plan or you have a big leash. But if you need results now, or if you want to play well now, you can't. It makes no sense to keep doing that. And like Jeff said, one match in, he's switching things up. But it's not only that. If you had told any FCC fan going into the tournament, hey, we're going to be going with the 5-3-2, I don't think many of us would have understood how that works. We're thinking, wait, is Deplan going to be your wing back? Is it Saad? Who's going to be your middle 3? Who are going to be the top 2? None of it really made sense. He had people like Joe Zhao, who we all thought was this wide attacking forward, is suddenly playing a right wing back and bossing every left back he played for 3 straight matches. I mean, we didn't beat Portland, but Villafana was getting cooked by Zhao. He had an amazing tournament. And then you're seeing how Stanko really filled in and helped Harris, as Michael Lahoud was saying. Not only did Stam change these tactics, but he really coached these players into positions that they weren't necessarily used to. And that gives me a lot of confidence going forward, which is why I feel, so good enough to say 8.5.
8.5. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
confidence is irrational, baby.
It's weird because you were so negative in the review in the ratings. Here you go positive like that. I'll go 7. Just the fact that he made changes necessary to be competitive in this tournament. So I'll leave it at that. All right. So I want to know, who was your standout player in the 4 games that you got to see FC Cincinnati play here in this tournament, Clay? One guy.
I think I know where Michael Lahoud's going, so I'm going to save it for him. I'm going to go with Andrew Goodman. We saw Greg Garza struggle for 45 minutes against Columbus, and that's necessarily not too fair to him. The whole team looked bad. He hadn't played like most other people for 5 months. But when Goodman came in, not only against Columbus, but the 3 matches he played against Atlanta, New York, and Portland, not only was he great going forward, like we knew he has been with his pace and his strength, but he was solid on defense. And that may have been part of the defensive shape that we built, but he bought into the system. And I remember that hustle play he got that led to Yuya Kubo's goal against Red Bulls. Yep. That's what you want to see. He's really laid his body on the line, slid in there, won the possession back, and was instrumental in the buildup going forward. I'm really impressed. We'll probably talk about this later. I really hope that he can stay. I think he's got incredible potential. To see him play not just well going forward like we knew, but to see him play well in a defense is incredibly promising. And so I'll list him.
Andrew Goodman, a solid choice there. How about you, Jeff?
Clay stole my.
Oh no! I knew I was
he stole mine too, so that's fine.
No, there are a lot of guys I could have. I enjoyed watching Stanko through this tournament. I enjoyed watching Joe Zhao. I thought T-Tone was outstanding as well, particularly against Portland. But the guy I enjoyed watching more than anyone was Goodman in this tournament. And it's unfortunate because, the early yellow against Portland might have set him back a little bit, but still 93% pass completion. That hustle play, the guy can deliver a tackle. And I think I tweeted right after that tackle, I was like, Jaap Stam's got to be smiling. They didn't show him on the sideline. I'm thinking, Jaap Stam's got to be like, this is my guy.
Yeah.
Because this is exactly what I used to do at United.
Mhm.
But yeah, I loved watching Andrew Goodman in this tournament.
Solid choice again. I know where you're going to go, Michael. You kind of already teased it, but I'm going to go ahead and pencil in Joe Zhao. Huh?
Well, I'm going to have to crush Joe's heart.
Oh,
I'm definitely. I got my 1 and 1A.
Oh, okay. All right.
Man Crush Monday, Joe Zhao for sure gets a heavy nod. But the guy that we talk about enjoyed watching, I became a Kubo fan because of this tournament. He has got amazing feet. He's like he's dancing around people. And the 2 games prior to the Portland game, I thought Portland, his legs just gave out. You know, you saw with Frankie, it's so hard to do what him and Rakitin are doing, of not just trying to get in behind and get forward, but the work, the selfless work that they put out there for the sake of the team. They bought in, and I respect that from strikers, because you often don't see that from strikers when it comes to defending or attacking players. But from his defensive work rate, I was really impressed with. But man, the man can dance. Just slaloming through guys. The previous match, I lost count of the amount of times he just dribbled out of pressure. You start seeing a partnership with him and Rakitin that you can build off of. And if you're going to stick with this formation or whatever variation, or if you want to go to a 4 in the back, you learn something about Kubo that you may have not known before. Yeah. And just what an outlet for pressure. So Kubo's my guy. He's my 1B to my 1A, Joe Zhao. So 1-2 punch.
Is there something to be said? And I know that in the Columbus match, they gave up 4 goals. But after that, I didn't really it was almost like Tom Pedersen was non-existent out on the field, right? I mean, not because he wasn't there, but like there were no issues.
Right. No,
his distribution was great. Like there was nothing glaring that said, "Whoa, he shouldn't be." I mean, he was solid, right? I mean,
he's quietly competent, is what I called him.
Yeah,
he just did his job.
Yeah, but it's hard to argue with Goodman, right? I mean, I think he gave Gerard an interesting decision to make here this upcoming offseason, right? He's on loan from Celtic. There's no guarantee he's going to be back next season. But wouldn't it be nice if he was in orange and blue? And I don't know if he can play next year in Scotland with everything going on pandemic-wise, work visa-wise. So maybe knock on wood, something can happen and he can return.
Let me just say, because I thought Lahoud was going to pick him, Joe Zhao is our most dangerous guy going forward. And I would have picked him if I didn't want. I was trying to set up Michael. I thought that was going to be his pick. I'm really glad he picked Kubo, but we can't let this segment go without giving proper props to Joe Zhao, who, like I said, cooked every left back he faced. And I'd never seen him play that deep before. And so he committed, he ran with it. And without him, we don't win against Atlanta, at least. Mm-hmm. You know?
Well, we are quickly, I didn't think we'd be able to fill a whole hour tonight, but we are quickly coming up on the hour mark. So we'll save the player we were most disappointed with for next week's show. But we want to know from you folks, who were you most impressed with in this MLS's back tournament? Get in touch with us, feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. It's that time of the show where we give a big shout out and thanks to our tremendous supporters. So give it up for Tim Bronsel, Tom Rose, Matt Adamczyk, Mike Hudson, Brian Malone, Jamie Smed, Jonas Tom, Jack Emery, Mike Bowman, Kathleen Francis, Matt Imholt, Matthew Long, Joe Coling, Tara Mullins, and our newest CST supporter, Riley Stephen Burke, wearing the armband for this episode of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. Thank you so much for supporting us here at Cincinnati Soccer Talk. The things that you're able to do for us really does go a long way. I mean, we got Michael, a nice, beautiful web camera. He sounds good this week. He's got a microphone that works. That's all from the support of you. So thank you so much for supporting us. To learn more on how you can do that, head on over to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. We got a lot of comments in the chat tonight, folks wanting to know about transfer rumors. So we don't have to go too deep into that because, look, there's going to be a season for that, right? There's going to be rumors and conjecture, all that. So we'll talk about some of the bigger names out there. Tyler Blackit, rumored to be on his way to Cincinnati, out of contract with Reading, a former Manchester United Academy graduate, made 12 appearances for the Red Devils in his time with Manchester United. sounds like he could potentially be a pretty good center back or a left back, Clay. We don't really know where he fits, but it's a big name from a championship level team.
Yeah. The key point here is that he played under Jaap Stam when Jaap Stam was the manager at Reading. So he knows him well. It's been a couple years since then, but
yeah,
I don't think he'd be linked with us if Stam didn't have confidence in him. He plays mostly left back, but he's very versatile, which I think is going to be incredibly interesting, particularly because we have a lot of players, particularly in defense, who might be out of contract at the end of this year. So this is definitely a move for 2021 and beyond. Does he start at left back? Does he start at center back? We could discuss that till the cows come home. But I do think he's an incredible passer, which the way Stam has wanted to play and he's played before these other teams, possession is key. You can see how Pedersen worked against Portland. That's the kind of defender that Stam loves, the guys who can keep that passing going around the field, pushing it up forward, breaking some lines. I think Blackit's really good at that. He's got pace. So if he's in a back three, if he's a left back, like I said, tons of versatility. But, defense is definitely where we might need more bodies going into next season. So he could be a key part of that.
And then this from the chat on YouTube, Jacob Lewis says, what do you guys think of the Mario Götze rumors? Here we go again, right? I'll believe it when I see it.
Oh, I'll say at least this time there's actual smoke. Before it was just like, oh, well, he's German and Cincinnati's kind of German, right? So, look, he hasn't been good since 2014, y'all. Like, you really want to spend money on this guy?
And it's not going to be cheap either.
No, he's not going to be cheap. Like, I'm sure he's going to be much better in MLS than in Bundesliga, but, I mean, let's stop talking about players who were good 6 years ago.
Man, Clay, what... You were so positive before.
I know what happened.
I have big swings.
Big swings. I dig that. I get that.
There's no middle for me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, look,
I'll eat crow if he comes here and plays well, but why do you get Cindy Young? And why do you make Alan Cruz a DP and then spend millions of dollars on a washed up World Cup star? I don't get it. It makes no sense for our team right now. There's other positions that we need to spend money on.
Agreed.
You got to like that we're linked with players that aren't Dutch.
That's true.
That's a complete shift in philosophy, right? In recruiting philosophy.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point. There you go. Could be Robin Van Persie. Who knows?
Oh man, if there's a German persuasion, I'll change my last name and come my retirement right now.
Manchester United legend.
Oh man. All right. So let's start to wrap things up here on Cincinnati Soccer Talk. I had so much more I wanted to get to, but I think I'm going to save it for another week. We'll make Brian do it. That's it. Or maybe he'll let me host another show here or there. It's been a lot of fun. Thanks to everybody tuning in on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We appreciate all the comments. So as we begin to wrap things up here, I will start with you, Clay. How are you feeling now that the transfer window is open and Spurs aren't going to go spend money?
Silly season is one of the most special and infuriating times of any soccer fan. FC Cincinnati is going to be no different coming up. Spurs have always been kind of a thorn in my side. I will say we have more money than the scum in Woolwich, so I'm pretty happy about that. We have some decent, I think, opportunities to add to the team that I'm excited about. We'll see. FC Cincinnati, I have no idea where they could go, which that's the exciting part. It's different for like Spurs, for instance, or you could probably say the same with United, where there's a few key positions you might want to improve, and you're sitting there staring at your phone every morning going, are we going to finally get this guy, please? FC Cincinnati is a little more exciting. There's there's Götze rumors, there's Blackit rumors, there's a lot of different directions this club can go, that's the fun part. And so hopefully with Jaap Stam's influence now in the front office under Nijkamp, they can get chatting. I think Stam knows what he's dealing with. You can tell from how he responded in Orlando that he knows who he's with and he knows what he needs. And so I'm excited to see the kind of players he wants to bring in.
Who knows? Maybe they'll bring in William.
Oh,
That's
Yeah.
for those of
Good
you
enough.
listening to the audio podcast. You missed the big eye roll from myself. Clay, appreciate you being on the show, buddy, as always.
Thank you.
Final thoughts from Jeff Wallner. What's Everton going to do now that the transfer window's open?
Well, if you believe the rumors, everyone who's ever played for Napoli is coming to Everton to play for Ancelotti. Carlo's sitting in a pub in Crosby, and the entire Napoli roster is coming in, and he's interviewing them. Yeah, I don't know. No, we have a lot to be optimistic about. So under Carlo, he did an outstanding job. They had a couple bad matches after the restart, but I think it was maybe 30 points in 20 matches or something. I don't know. Whatever he got, you break it out over a full season, and they're definitely in the European conversation. But no, exciting stuff.
A lot to be positive about for both Everton and FC Cincinnati, right, Jeff?
Yeah.
And even better, you didn't have to sit through a rain delay tonight down at Great American Ballpark.
I did not. So.
Glad to have the professor back. Jeff, appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you.
Professor.
I like how Michael says it from now on.
I'm working on it for next show.
You got to pre-record it like we do the Wolf sound.
The professor.
Wolfman.
The Wolfman. All right, Michael, your final thoughts. I'm sure you want to talk a little Jadon Sancho, right? He's going to be a Red Devil.
Man, I'm sweating. If they don't get this deal done, I say this every time United loses or doesn't get it. I'm finished. I'm done with the club. I'm done. And then they win. I'm like, oh, I love this club.
These are the things United fans sweat over.
Yeah.
You know,
Are we going to get
Are we going to get this
$120 million
World Cup?
winger?
Right.
Jesus. Spurs will be lucky to spend half that.
So I'm a little bit nervous about this upcoming transfer window. Look, Jadon Sancho is a talent and a star, but man, our defense, we need to shore up our back line. We still need that midfield presence. If Pogba or Bruno Fernandes goes down, who do we have? What I've always been taught, when you have a chance to build something or reinforce a team, you always start with the spine. And you go there, you get security, and the emergence of Mason Greenwood, I'm all for competition, but we need a true number 9. I think Anthony Martial has done amazing, but to be able to add a true number 9 in that presence would do wonders. But man, I love our center backs. They did the job, but I'm not sure that we can get through the Champions League without getting reinforcements. I'd like to I wish Ole would stop blocking me on WhatsApp. So I'm sure he gets my messages. I keep telling him, go after this guy named Koulibaly. You may have heard of him.
Yeah.
Before Ancelotti gets him.
United using number 9, kind of like Lukaku, maybe from Inter.
Man,
You think that would
A
work?
good 9. A good 9.
Well,
I don't know.
the thing that it'll be a good transfer window if we're not linked to 99% of Europe and every good player. If I see we're linked to Toni Kroos or Lionel Messi or Ronaldo again or Gareth Bale or Harry Kane, I'm done with that.
I'd take Harry Kane. I would take Harry Kane.
Gylfi
you
Sigurdsson.
Yeah,
I mean,
give us 200 million. You have
We talking about Gylfi Sigurdsson? Are you kidding me? I'll take him tomorrow. Who do you want for him? I'll go to Everton.
You could take Jesse Lingard.
I don't know.
Man, I'm staying away from the Jesse Lingard.
In midfield, I think.
I think it's funny. I think it's funny that Michael says we need to shore up the back line. Manchester United had the 3rd best defense in the Premier League last year. Only conceded 3 more goals than Liverpool.
Oh man, once we start playing in Europe, and
yeah, you're right. They're going to be spread thin.
And they're going to be spread thin. You saw it.
I think Maguire and Lindelof are good, but who do you have after? That's the key.
Well, Bailey can't stay healthy, and it's such a bummer because when he plays, he starts going, and then the train stops, and you see what happened. Freak things happen. Luke Shaw finally was performing with Rashford on the left-hand side, and then he gets the freak ankle injury, and Williams comes in, and he's out. And oh man, like I said, I was putting my name in the list. I was texting Ole, dude, I'm available if you need me. I want my team to win.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, if you're listening, please unblock Michael Lahoud. He's willing to help.
Hit me on the WhatsApp, bro.
Good stuff. Appreciate you being on the show, Michael, as always.
I love it. Thanks for having me, as always.
And I think right now Brian's probably listening to the podcast, just like throwing his iPhone because we're talking about the Premier League, a league he cares nothing about. Well, that's what happens when you go on vacation, Bri.
Who's his team? Or are we gonna have to save that for?
He doesn't have one.
He's a neutral.
I think at one point he was a Sunderland fan, but then they got relegated.
Ooh.
Who knows?
That's rough.
There might be something we do with that down the road, as far as like doing some sort of something with finding him a team.
Well, two guys that played for Sunderland were Justin Hoyt and Richie Ryan.
Oh,
yeah,
nice little FC. That's how you bring a full circle, Michael. I like
trying harmony, unity, and a Jadon Sancho deal will get me through tonight.
Brian will be a Brentford fan if they win tomorrow, probably.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
All right. Well, appreciate everybody tuning in. Thanks for downloading and subscribing to the podcast. If you're not subscribed to the show, I don't know what you're waiting for. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, wherever you can find podcasts. Get subscribed so you don't miss an episode of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. And, of course, get subscribed to Talking Tactics with Coach Goff. Our own coach, Brad Goff, does a great job breaking down the matches. And this week he had a really great interview with Joe Lowry from the MLS Assist podcast, talking about the positives from the MLS's back tournament for FC Cincinnati. So get subscribed to that. It's a really good show. If you're into the nuts and bolts as far as tactics go, really recommend that. That's going to do it for this episode of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. My thanks to Clay Winstead, Jeff Wallner, and former FC Cincinnati midfielder Michael Lahoud for joining us this week. I'm Subs, reminding you to watch your tackles, and we will see you all next time.